When people think of MI5, they imagine secret agents quietly monitoring suspects in the background. But here's what most people don't realize. MI5 cannot legally spy on someone just because they're suspicious. There is a formal legal process, there are oversight mechanisms, and there are multiple layers of approval before surveillance can begin. So how does MI5 actually get permission to spy on someone in the UK? Let's break it down step by step. First, it starts with intelligence, not proof. MI5 receives information suggesting that an individual may be involved in terrorism, espionage, hostile state activity, or serious threats to national security. This intelligence can come from many sources: police investigations, GCHQ signals intelligence, MI6 foreign intelligence, public tips, online activity, or partner intelligence services abroad. But suspicion alone is not enough. MI5 cannot simply decide to start intercepting someone's communications. They must assess whether surveillance is necessary and proportionate. Those two words, necessary and proportionate, are central to UK surveillance law. Now we enter the legal framework. The main law governing surveillance powers in the UK is the Investigatory Powers Act 2016. This law defines what intelligence agencies can and cannot do. Under this act, if MI5 wants to intercept communications, such as phone calls, emails, or messages, they must apply for a warrant. This is not an internal rubber stamp, it is a formal legal application. Step 1. MI5 prepares a detailed warrant application. This document includes who the target is, why they are suspected of posing a national security threat, what type of surveillance is requested, why it is necessary, and why it is proportionate. Proportionate means the intrusion into privacy must match the seriousness of the threat. Monitoring someone casually would not justify intercepting their private communications. The agency must demonstrate that less intrusive methods would not be sufficient. Step 2. The Home Secretary reviews the application. In the UK, interception warrants require approval from a Secretary of State, typically the Home Secretary for Domestic National Security Matters. This is a political office holder, not an intelligence officer. The Home Secretary must personally sign off on the warrant. They review whether the legal threshold is met, the action is necessary for national security, and the intrusion is proportionate. But the process doesn't stop there. The UK uses what's known as a double lock system. Even after the Home Secretary approves the warrant, it must also be reviewed by a Judicial Commissioner. This is a senior judge. The Judicial Commissioner independently examines the decision. They do not simply defer to the government, they assess whether the Secretary of State's decision was lawful, reasonable, and properly justified. If the judge disagrees, the warrant does not proceed. This double lock system is designed to balance national security with civil liberties. If both approvals are granted, the warrant becomes legally valid. Only then can MI5 begin interception activities. This might include monitoring phone calls, intercepting emails, accessing stored communications, or working with telecommunications providers to enable lawful interception. But even at this stage, oversight continues. There are independent oversight bodies in the UK. The Investigatory Powers Commissioners Office, known as IPCO, conducts audits and inspections. They examine how warrants are used. They review whether agencies are complying with the law. They can report errors, require corrective action, and publish annual reports. In other words, surveillance in the UK operates within a structured legal system, not a free-for-all intelligence environment. It's also important to understand something else. Not all intelligence collection requires intercepting private communications. There are different categories of surveillance. For example, targeted interception, bulk interception, equipment interference, which can involve accessing devices, and communications data access, such as metadata. Each of these requires different legal thresholds and authorisation processes. Some require the double lock system. Others require internal authorisation plus external oversight. But in all serious cases involving intrusion into private communications, legal approval is mandatory. Now, what happens if MI5 gets it wrong? If surveillance is conducted unlawfully, individuals can file complaints with the Investigatory Powers Tribunal. This is a specialist court that investigates allegations of unlawful surveillance by intelligence agencies, The tribunal has the authority to investigate secret evidence, rule on legality, and award remedies if wrongdoing is found. This is part of the UK's attempt to ensure that intelligence power does not become unchecked power. So when people ask, can MI5 just spy on anyone they want? The answer is no. They must demonstrate a credible national security threat, that surveillance is necessary, that it is proportionate, that a Secretary of State approves it, and that a Judicial Commissioner confirms it. Only then can interception legally begin. Of course, this doesn't mean the system is free from controversy. Surveillance laws are regularly debated. Civil liberties groups question the scope of certain powers. Parliament reviews legislation. And oversight bodies publish reports highlighting errors or compliance issues. But structurally, the UK has built a layered authorisation model designed to prevent arbitrary spying. In summary, the process looks like this. Intelligence triggers suspicion. MI5 builds a legal case for surveillance. A warrant application is drafted. The Home Secretary reviews and approves. A Judicial Commissioner independently confirms. Oversight bodies monitor compliance. That is how MI5 gets legal permission to spy on someone, not instantly, not secretly without approval, but through a defined legal framework shaped by national security law. If you want to understand how surveillance fits into the broader UK threat system, including how threat levels are set and how counter-terror operations unfold, explore the other videos on this channel. Because once you understand the process, the system becomes far clearer and far less mysterious.